allow you to say it's bad luck. But you know, going into that game, we had a lot of I'm not going to say concerns, but there was a lot of question marks going into that game. Your quarterback hadn't taken a snap. You've got 4 new starters on the offensive line. You're new at linebacker. You don't have anybody that's played for you or any game film. You're new in the second and the back end. A lot of question marks going into that game. Experience at tailback was not one of them. And when you watch the films from a year ago, that's very uncharacteristic of both of them, and yet we put the ball on the ground 3 times, and 2 of them take points off the board. Like I said, if you were able to push those 2 touchdowns in and not drop them, it's 21-24 at halftime, and you're in a heck of a game. And that's even with 4 pre-snap penalties and lining up offsides at corner on a 3rd and 5 stop. You know, some of those mistakes those are the things that we've got to be able to eliminate. So I don't think we can just say it was a fluke. I think we've got to coach against it. I think they've got to be leery of it. And if we've got to run with 2 hands on the football and we got to carry it like, well, I'll date myself, but Larry Zonka and the way he used to run for the Dolphins with 2 hands on the ball like this, then if that's what we got to do, that's what we're going to have to do, because you can't win many football games when you're -3 in the turnover ratio. I don't care who you're playing.
Coach, I know you got a lot of I won't say inexperience, but you lost a lot of skilled players on the offense. When you were talking, though, you had good games out of Richie Casey and Sterling Griffin and DJ Bates. When you look at your offense, is it kind of reassuring to know you have so many options?
Out of the question marks going into the game, Scotty Young throws the ball and doesn't throw an interception, which is one of the things that we had really hammered home, that we've got to be able to protect the ball. And I thought he did a good job competing in the first half and protecting the ball. I wish we would have thrown the ball a little bit more accurately in the second half. But you know, that was one of the positive question marks. Receivers was a big question mark. To see the way that they went out and competed, the way that they've gelled, the way that they've come together. Sterling being a new addition, you know, Jakari, who missed all the spring with a wrist, and then DJ Banks being there, and Richie Casey, who was unsure whether or not he was going to get his 6th year in his waiver, because this was a thing that, you know, 3 weeks ago you were really concerned about what we had at the wide receiver position. And to come out of that game and to have them play the way they did, that was definitely one of those question marks going in that turned out very positively. I'm really encouraged with the way that they played, and I'm really encouraged with the way the linebackers played. You know, those are probably the 2 biggest question marks. But I think in the negative plays that we had, or the negative question marks that we had, that we did not perform the way we would have wanted to. In the secondary, I think there are mistakes that we can correct. I mean, you can't give up the inside and man coverage. I don't care if we have to line up 5 yards inside of them. We cannot give up the inside and give them the easy throw of the slants and the glances and the down the ball throws that are kind of over the middle. We've got to make them make the harder throws and throw it across our face and get the ball to the perimeter. And those are great learning lessons, and those are great teaching lessons, and I think we'll grow from there. But there were some bright spots out of the question marks. The receivers were definitely one of them.
Scotty had an efficient game, but going forward, are you looking more for him to take a little bit more aggressive approach? I mean, he didn't throw any picks, but
right.
Can you just expand on that?
Very much so. I'm pleased with the way he competed. He stood in there. He took some shots early against some of their pressure. He made some throws early, and you know, for a question mark going in at halftime, I even said to Coach Peterson, I said, I'm really proud of the way Scotty's competing. The second half, I definitely would like to see him build on that, you know, and not just be conservative with the ball. But we've got to get to the point, if you're going to run this offense, your quarterback has got to be an aggressive playmaker for you. I mean, there's a fine line between protecting the ball, you know, putting the ball in danger, and being able to make some throws. But you know, we missed DJ Banks wide open going down the sideline. We had a 3 vertical with the guy running right down the middle of the field that we didn't see. And those are plays that Scotty's been able to hit. And those are the ones that when he watched the film, it was like, oh, I got to hit that. And that's where we need to see improvement from Scotty Young. We can't leave those plays out on the field. You only have so many deep ball opportunities. And there were 3 deep ball opportunities that I'm not saying they would have went in the end zone, but it definitely had a chance to flip field position and give us a chance to make a big play. And we're going to need our quarterback to make those plays moving forward.
How positive was it to see your defense make some critical 3rd down stops late in the game?
I thought, this sounds crazy. You give them 550 yards, but I was encouraged with what I saw on the defensive side of the ball. I was encouraged with our front 7. was encouraged with what they did. We've got to get better. We've got to clean some things up. We're certainly not perfect, but I think in the secondary, that's where most of the question marks were. And so I thought I was really encouraged on the goal line and short yardage situations with our defense. Most of our stops came in short yardage situation, not long. 3rd and 14, they throw a screen pass. I mean, they had a number of long yardage situations that they converted on, but I thought the front seven in short yardage, they bowed their backs a little bit, and they stood up and they did a nice job. They were inside the 10-yard line 6 times in that football game and had kicked 3 field goals. From that standpoint, I was encouraged. I was encouraged with the way our front seven played against it, but in the back end, we've got to get better.
Coach, as you guys turn the page, how important is it to defend this home turf and also get the fans excited and get a win under your belt?
It's hard for so many new starters having to start on the road. It's hard because this is where you're comfortable. This is home. This is your opportunity to play in front of your family and friends and in a familiar setting right here at home. And so I think it's going to be really important that we have the opportunity to come back at home, be focused, be dialed in. Hopefully we learned a lot from that. Our support, our fan support here has been outstanding. We ask that people continue to support this team. I think they'll play hard. They'll see a team that'll play together. I think they'll play hard. They'll play passionate. We've just got to play smarter, but we're really excited to have the opportunity to come back home and play this football game.
How was your familiarity with Sterling Help? He seems to be grasping things pretty well.
I think he's grasped it very well. It's probably more, I have great confidence in him because I've seen him do it. I have confidence in him, and I've seen him do it the last couple of years. At South Florida, was really excited to see that he was able to get out there and compete again. He is a lot like Tevin King. He's coming off an ACL injury from a year ago, and I thought the way he went out there, the way he played the game, the way he performed, I think speaks volumes for him. He's gone through an awful lot. He's missed a number of seasons with injuries, whether it be an ankle, a knee, broken foot, and he's been through an awful lot. So to see him go out there and to see him perform and to be able to put all those things behind him and go out there and just play the game, I thought he showed his maturity and what type of character, what type of young man he is. But I was really proud of the way that he went out there and played and competed in this game.
Anything else?
How much of a disadvantage is it with punting-wise? You mentioned it earlier, but I mean, average 36, 37. When you're on, 20, 25-yard line, you'd expect to maybe get or hold 40 or 50 yards on a punt. You're only getting 30, and they're starting at around midfield. How much of a disadvantage is that?
Huge. Field position is a big part of this game when it comes to scoring. And at halftime, I look at the stats. At halftime, I think we're averaging 38 yards a punt. They're averaging 51. When you look at it, we're losing 13 yards of possession. Well, there was 15 possessions in that game, and if you're losing 13 yards every possession, eventually you're backed up a little bit. So your offense has to drive 80 yards every time we get it, and we didn't help ourselves offensively with so many of the pre-snap penalties. And then defensively, first kickoff, you think, I chose to go on defense because I figured if we could kind of get them backed up, they've got a new quarterback too. Let's see our defense get a stop, and we can start with great field position. I mean, it sounded good before the game until the opening kickoff goes out of bounds, and they start pretty much at midfield. And you're like, okay, there goes that theory. That took all but about 3 seconds to get rid of. But I think from a kicking game standpoint, that huge chunks of yardage, I don't think we kicked the ball well enough to win the field position battle. But I thought we covered it well enough to win the field position. I thought the 10 guys running down the field covering kickoffs and punts did an excellent job. But we've got to get more productivity out of our kicking game, out of the actual kicks. One of the goals that we have as a football team is we want to net 39 yards a punt. Well, when you average 36, it's hard to net 39. So we've got to get better with our punting, and we've got to find some answers to get more yards out of that.
You touched on it a little bit in your introduction. The FCS teams, defeating all the FBS teams this weekend, is that something, lack of preparation, you think, by the teams, or is it just the parity of the lower level?
I think it's the parity. I think there's great parity in college football, but probably even more so than just the talent. I think the parity comes with a lot of the rule changes. I think when you're watching these hurry-up offenses, when you're watching teams that can go to the line, snap the ball, get rid of it quick, and not give teams an opportunity to line up, to scheme, or to use their strengths. Because one of the biggest differences from the FCS to the FBS levels. I have coached in both, been around both, but what I have found is the biggest difference is the interior play. Your offensive and defensive lines normally are not as deep as they are at the FBS level. And that goes from scholarship numbers, that goes from recruiting, but I think there's a lot of quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, defensive backs, safeties that are playing in the NFL from lower level schools. And I think that there's a lot of players out there at the skill positions, but I think it's a little bit harder to find those 6'7", 300-pound offensive and defensive linemen that can run in our athletic. So I think with the new rule changes that have gone on in college football the last couple of years, I definitely think it's giving the underdogs an opportunity to step on the field and to not only to play but to win as well. And I think there's some really good, we draw the line from an image standpoint, which I think is getting farther and farther away, the image of the two, but I think the product on the field with the rules and the restrictions in recruiting, I think the products on the field are getting closer and closer together.
Because we couldn't help but notice when we walked into the walk-on deal on Wednesday. I don't know if that's been done here, but is that an attempt to try to find maybe a diamond in the rough?
The walk-on trials for Wednesday, yeah. Our walk-on program's got to be huge for us. It has to be. Right now, I mean, when we are coming out of camp, we're at 77 scholarships, and a big part of that is due to 30-some players walking out the door and only being able to replace 25 under the NCAA rules with initial scholarships. And so you're down. I mean, being down 8 scholarships is a huge disadvantage. There's a reason when somebody goes on probation, they take 3 scholarships from them because it's costly. And right now, with that many seniors walking out the door, we are below the number we need to be at. And I think the only way we can make that up is with a great walk-on program. We put 4 walk-ons on scholarship last week. We put Paul Harris on as a senior quarterback. We put, how many else? We've got, we put Jabari Pruitt on. We put Blake Martin on. Sorry, my mind other places. And Ahmad Wallace were the 4 upperclassmen that we put on scholarship. So when you put 4 walk-ons on scholarship, all of a sudden when you have your walk-on tryout on Wednesday, you've got some guys come out. I mean, some guys are looking at not only the opportunity to be on the team, but the opportunity to contribute and play. And I think there's another 4 that deserve it. I mean, there's another 4 that I'd love to be able to put on right now. And you start to look at some of the guys that are even out there playing. Kyle Fisher is kicking for us right now as a walk-on, but he's a guy that has the opportunity to earn one. I mean, Marlon Seats is an opportunity as a running back who has an opportunity to earn one. I think our walk-ons are a critical part of our program right now, and so the NCAA rules allow you to let those guys come out the first day of school, and so we are having a meeting just to let them know that they've got to have physicals and everything that they have to do, and then we will have kind of a tryout on Monday with all the new walk-ons to give them the opportunity. But we need some numbers on this football team right now.
Anything else? All right.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Let's go!